Alright guys, I'll reveal what's behind me here, but our first real snow of the season. So pretty exciting. I just got done snow along the driveway, so priorities first. But now we've got some nice snowflakes falling. Might be able to see a couple there. So I thought I would come outside and kind of give you guys a behind the scenes look at how I shoot these snowflake videos. So what we've got here is basically just a 5-gallon bucket, another bucket on top of that. Inside that bucket, I've got a headlamp pointing straight up. And then to basically act as the slide plate, I've got just an old piece of flooring here that I cut a hole in the center of. More on that in a minute. And then a just piece of glass from a picture frame. So the camera that we're using today is a Canon T2i or T2i that I got at a garage sale for 20 bucks. So the other important factor here are these little macro rails. So what they have are these small knobs, and when you adjust these knobs, it very slightly adjusts the height of the camera, just little by little, so you can really dial in your focus. So let's catch some snowflakes, and I'll show you how to shoot them. So this part's pretty easy. I mean, you're really just holding your plate out and catching snowflakes on it. I like to use my front porch light here to kind of help me see what's falling. I'll hold that up to the light. So now we'll take that over to our rig, see what's up. But I think I'll get one of these pairs of snowflakes, maybe that one right there in the middle, right at the bottom. So we'll take that over, go down and set it on our piece of flooring. And again, I cut this hole in the flooring, so basically I know exactly where my camera is shooting. So I'm going to identify my snowflake kind of on the edge over here, and then bring it towards the center. Go up to our camera, engage live view. I'm in manual mode. Usually do have to do some last minute adjustments here, so I'm just moving that glass plate ever so slightly. You can see we're not in focus here, so we're going to again move our knobs on the side just to bring that into sharp focus. I always like to use these zoom features on the live view mode so we can make sure that we've got it tack sharp. That's looking pretty good. Glass plate doesn't look perfectly clean, but that's okay. And then last step, we just use a remote shutter right here so we don't move the camera at all when we actually take the photo. So you take a picture, go to the review mode, make sure it's sharp. That's looking great. And then we'll take it inside to edit. If you're wondering about my actual camera setup here, so I have an Induro tripod, which I just use for everything. Good solid carbon fiber legs. And then I've got Canon T2i garage sale find here. So we're doing this on a budget. And a reversed 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens. Pretty standard kit lens with these Canon kits. And that is mounted using a reversing ring that you can pick up on eBay for about $5-10 bucks. So we've got a $20 camera, probably about a $20 lens, and $5-10 reversing ring. Everything else you should probably already have at home or something similar that you can make work, and that's all you need to get started on taking some macro photos. Alright, here's a cool one we just caught. Just wanted to share while we were out here still shooting. It's a nice dendrite and then a cute little smaller one next to it. Alright, it's about an hour and a half later now. Back outside. The skies look clear, you can barely tell it's snowing. But I'm starting to get some really nice snowflakes. Can't wait to edit this one. Alright, it's about 10 minutes later now. And I don't know if you can tell, but the skies are starting to clear out a little bit. Still cloudy, which does still produce snowflakes, but they're starting to change. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's our latest catch. And you should be able to see on this one, it's got these little round dots on it. And what that is called is rime. Rime ice is just little bits of moisture that are in the atmosphere that attach to the snowflake, and if you get enough rime on there, your snowflakes end up being not very transparent, which is kind of what we need for the way that we're taking photos here. So conditions can change really weirdly quickly too. You might have stellar snowflakes for 5 minutes, and then the next 5 minutes you get basically nothing or just kind of junky shapes that aren't worth photographing. So we'll give it a little more time, see what happens tonight. Otherwise, we'll go inside and edit our photos.
Alright guys, we are inside now, and I've got our snowflake photos loaded up. Opening these in Camera Raw first, because actually the majority of the work that we need to do is done in here. So first I kind of just scrub through the photos. Sometimes I have to adjust the orientation of them with that camera pointing straight down. Occasionally they'll be vertical instead of horizontal. I just prefer horizontal, doesn't really matter. But go through all these picture thumbnails, kind of make sure all of their exposures generally the same. And then just basically starting on the first one. So the first thing you might notice on these is you've got these kind of purple and green chromatic aberrations. So this is one of the first things that I remove just by checking it under the optics tab in Adobe Camera Raw. And you might have to adjust these purple amount and green amounts a little bit. I remove these even though I ultimately end up converting the image to black and white. But it helps my eyes kind of see the shape of the snowflake better to start. So I start there, zoom all the way out, go to our light and exposure area. I like to keep them fairly bright, but one thing I do like to do is push our black level down a little bit. Just kind of add some contrast back into these structures. I'm going to set the saturation to -99, so there's just a tiny bit of color left before we open these images, and I'll tell you why in just a moment when we're in Photoshop. For the effects, I don't usually do a ton. Depending on your snowflakes, it might be helpful to do a little bit of dehaze. That can also sort of bring out those artifacts in the background, like if you had some dust on your glass plate. But I like to do a little bit of dehaze. It seems to bring like the tips of these snowflake branches back just a little bit. I shot these at ISO 200, so I shouldn't really have to do too much in the noise reduction realm, but we'll apply a little bit. One important thing I like to remember is to turn off the automatic sharpening that images will open with by using this masking slider, and I'm pressing the Option key to turn that into kind of this scary looking black and white image. So we got that. And again, just kind of set it so it's not sharpening absolutely everything. Like obviously we don't need these background images to be sharpened. We really just want that snowflake to be sharpened. So we turn that sharpening, masking way, way up. We might even add a little bit of sharpening in here, just because we're dealing with such a shallow depth of field on these that you want to get as much of the snowflake tip to tip sharp as you can. So this is kind of what stuff looked like before, and we have a nice after. And I'm just going to be kind of lazy about this. Select all of our images, click this little icon here. We'll do check all, and we will apply all of those changes across all of the images. So now all of our pictures have the same settings applied to them, which will come in handy because later we'll be applying a custom action that will process all of our images. So just gonna go through here, kind of check a few of these might be a little bit too bright. Might dial that one back just a little bit. And when we do process these, we're going to basically invert their color. So instead of having a almost pure white background, they'll be pretty dark. So the more you overexpose the image in this stage, the darker it will end up being of a background color in later stages. So just good to keep in mind. And on some of these, since they are pretty much just a clear piece of ice, you might have to dial back your exposure a little bit more if you were shooting in manual, just to avoid overexposing all these intricate little details that you get in these snowflakes. These are my absolute favorites. I don't know why. It's just really cool to think about how these formed from a point in here. They grew very slowly outwards, and then at some point, the atmospheric conditions changed to cause these intricate bubble shapes all throughout, and they're pretty much symmetrical through the entire snowflake. So again, this is really just to get our initial snowflake images sort of to a consistent base state where they are properly exposed. They've got as much detail as we would like them to be showing. There's a few more down here. I'm glad I went through these because these are definitely overexposed. Even this one needs to be brought back a little bit more. But look at that one. Like, that's crazy. This is like a snowflake shape within a snowflake. Yeah, I have no explanation for that. My friend Dom Kamarechka has a lot of really great explanations as to how snowflakes form and what conditions lead to all of these crazy factors. But I just like looking at them. They are just some of the coolest things. And there's, billions or trillions of them falling in a single snowstorm. So you can kind of marvel at the beauty of these few that we've captured here on this one night. But think about it. This is one night in one specific location for a storm system that was impacting people across hundreds of miles. So this is just a tiny sampling of what this snowstorm had. So now we've got everything sort of to this base state. What we'll do is open them in Photoshop. And I'm sure this will take a minute because we're opening quite a few images, but click open. So the first thing that I'll do here is I'll go up to image, and if you check under mode, you can see that we are in RGB. So that is actually why I set the saturation to -99 instead of -100. Because if you set it to -100, evidently Photoshop will recognize it and set your color mode to grayscale automatically, which I actually don't want for this next step. So first we are going to go to image, adjustments, and then invert. This will invert the color of our image, and it will give us a white snowflake on a dark background. And then next, go to image, adjustments, and then I'll select this hue/saturation. That's an option that will actually be grayed out if you have your image mode in grayscale. So bring our box over here. Actually going to make sure you click this colorize. And then this is just kind of a matter of personal preference. You can make your snowflake images whatever color that you prefer. I like going kind of somewhere in this blue range. And then one other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to up my lightness just a little bit. Because if it's too dark, it looks like your snowflake is in the black vacuum of space. And I like to have a little bit of color on that background, so we'll set it somewhere around here. We'll add just a little more saturation in. And yeah, I really like how that's looking. So we'll go ahead and click OK. Then one last step that you can do, sometimes I do this to clean up the image a little bit, is I'll select my spot healing brush tool over here. And just go through and click and remove all those tiny little pieces of dust or rogue pieces of ice that we don't want in our final picture, just to kind of clean up the picture. If you have enough dirt on your glass, ironically, it can actually look kind of cool. It kind of makes it look like the snowflake is falling in the sky amongst a bunch of other snowflakes. But since this one just has a few spots, we'll clean those up to make this a nice, simple image. So there we go. There's our cleaned up snowflake image. And I actually have a custom action that runs through and applies all of these same edit settings, aside from the spot healing brush, to the rest of my snowflake pictures. So I can basically just batch edit all of those. And then we'll just go ahead and kick forward to watching a slideshow of all of the snowflakes that we captured on this super cold evening. Make sure you stay through to the end and let me know kind of what snowflake or timestamp is your favorite one. I mean, there's all kinds of different ones. We have snowflakes with rime. We have your classic stellar dendrites. Some of my favorites are these plate snowflakes that have really intricate bubbles on the inside. So that's just my personal preference. Let me know what ones you guys like in the comments. And if any of these tips were really helpful for you, either shooting or editing, please feel free to let me know in the comments. Give give this video a like, and of course, subscribe if you feel like watching more content like this.